Hey everybody, it's Bust with Expedition Trial number 417. Let's see what shows up here. So, all right, all kinds of new stuff here in the Caitlyn and the Scion. But I think I want to come over here and just try and draft around this Gangplank. We'll have to kind of see what comes of this. I would like to, put together the Bandle City into Gangplank first, but just can't quite do that here. But nonetheless, if you're out here just drafting your seven, both the Caitlyn and Scion are completely capable of champions of doing so. Just it feels like the Gangplank is probably the champion we've drafted the least recently here, and so as we're like 3 weeks into the new expansion, and so it's probably time to go back in and kind of revisit some of these older champions because who knows when the appearance bonus is going to drop off on Caitlyn and Scion. We'll probably be seeing these champions forever. And so let's go ahead and get Gangplank pulled up on the site. If you're not familiar with it, we're just over here at ftpbus.com. We're just going to be on the main page or on the Expedition Helper. We're just going to scroll our way down to this little drop down box, make our way to Gangplank and Megakeg, and take a peek at what we're working with here. And so, yeah, as far as this card pool is concerned, you're meant to be out here taking advantage of the powder kegs. And so the deck has various ways to get them on the board, whether or not it's Gangplank himself, something like Dreadway Deckhand, or the worse options, things like more powder and Boomship. But you're looking to put powder kegs on the board and then find some kind of way to take advantage of them. In general, I think that's a pretty garbagey strategy. It's not something we'll really try to pursue. If we incidentally end up with Dreadway Deckhands, that's fine. It's a fantastic unit. Same thing with Petty Officer, just another fantastic unit. And then we look to find some ways to take advantage of those, typically with the likes of Make It Rain and hitting these 2 and 3 damage AoEs onto our opponent. And so that's what the deck is about. As much of that as we'll pursue, probably not too much. Just we're really just here for the Gangplanks, and to a lesser degree the Make It Rains. And so that's piece number one. Piece number two is if we're out here looking to level up Gangplank, how do we best go about that? If we are doing it just through attacking, that's going to take us, 5 rounds of attacks just to get him leveled up. So it wouldn't be until turn 9 or turn 10. But if we can deal damage to our opponent when we don't have the attack token, we can get him leveled up much faster. And so that's where we'll find advantages from things like Make It Rain. Parlay can deal damage to our opponent. Things like the various powder monkey generators like Monkey Idol. All of these give us ways to deal damage to our opponents on their turn so that we can get our Gangplank leveled up faster. And so the way that we're kind of looking at that these days is the likes of some of the Bandle City cards using the new landmark generators, like the 1-cost unit that puts the 1 damage ping landmark on the board, or if we can piece together like a Ziggs or something. Those are the new and fancier ways to go about go about leveling up your Gangplank. And okay, interesting set. We do have the Zerath down here with the Sun Disk. I'm just going to have to say no thank you to that. Turns out we have non-Shurima cards already in our deck. But, I mean, these other options are not good. I don't really like the ideas of taking the LeBlanc. That's going to make the Swain half of Mega Keg start to show up. Just not that special or fantastic. And then as far as Radiant Dawn is concerned, the Targon just doesn't have any way to deal damage with spells, and so it's going to be tough for us to find some kind of advantage out of these. I think we're probably just going to be stuck taking the LeBlanc. Like the Zerath is just so bad, and the Sun Disk is just so bad. I don't think we can take it, and I think the only place we'll really be finding synergies is over here with this LeBlanc. And so the Mega Keg Swain will be showing up here, but I think at the end of the day that will be okay. And so let's get LeBlanc pulled up here as well. The Brutality card pool is the one that pairs off with Kindred. It's a little strange in that sense, but it is what it is. And let's see what we're working with here. And so yeah, there's a bunch of early game power in this one. This is probably something that would push us towards quite an aggressive deck. Everything in Bilgewater is really aggro-centric. You're going to have like the early game plunders. You're going to have things like Prowling Cutthroat and the 1-drop that does damage when you attack. It's like you just have all this really super early game focus. And then as we come over here to LeBlanc, we're going to start finding things like Legion Rearguard and House Spider. LeBlanc was pretty aggressive on her own. And so this looks like it would, look to be a pretty early game focused deck that ultimately worries me in the current format. It is an extremely, extremely punishing format to trying to be an aggressive deck that doesn't play Bandle City. Just a single Bandle commando can come down here and just completely annihilate any aggressive deck. We're out here playing Legion Rearguards and House Spiders, and our opponent's just getting a one cost 2 attack unit every turn for no more investment. It's just pretty brutal to have to try and stop. They also have the 2/4 for 3 that generates an additional of those one cost birds. And so I say this up front, this is a pretty scary strategy to be chasing down. I think the way that we would ideally be going after this deck is we're just going to be kind of like a mid-rangey deck that kills with overwhelms. And so I think we probably look to push ourselves towards LeBlanc. So that we have an early game aggressive unit that can come out here and actually do stuff. We can pass on the Gangplanks because we can just get access to armored Tusk Raiders, and then we're going to look to fill out the late game with these Tusk Raiders and these Savage Reckoners. I don't think we can try and do this aggressive Legion Rearguard based strategy that we used to do, because it's just so brutal when you run your Legion Rearguard into a Yordle Squire. So much value coming out of your opponent that you're just immediately falling behind. And so I think we probably have to look more towards the mid-rangey strategies with these. We'll see how that comes about. There is, some other interesting factors in here, let's say with like Imperial Demolitionists, giving us a way to just kind of go over top of our opponent's board. So when our opponent just fills up their board with shitty Bandle City units, then we can, we'd be like, all right, well, we're not going to deal damage anymore, but through combat, but we can at least go over top with the Demolitionist. I think this is okay with him. These other packs are not that strong. I mean, Jaw Hunter's Pull Shark is quite strong. Don't get me wrong, but it doesn't really point us in the direction of a deck. Maybe this is the way we need to go. Just a unit generator in the Jaw Hunters and then the Pull Shark replacing itself. I can get behind that. I've never been a huge fan of Ravenous Flock and Expedition, and the Demolitionist is a little weak. Okay, let's take the Bilgewater cards. All right. Well, Spectral Matron's the most powerful one here, but I don't think we want to be jumping into Shadow Isles. And so in that instance, the Bayou Brunch is just way too bad. And so that'll put us over here with the Grave Physician or the Slayer. We don't have like too many ways to be like generating cards. We might randomly come across a Reforge. So I don't think these will be spectacular, but at the end of the day, like Grave Physician is still a pretty reasonable, kind of like card quality fixer in the sense that if it's in the early game and we need to try and find an early game play, we can discard the Sheriff, or if it's in the late game and we've just been like holding on to a deckhand the whole game, we can cycle it away. You can make good usage out of these Grave Physicians. Okay, so interesting set. I'm seeing, I don't really want to be taking this aggressive strategy with like the Trifarian Hopefuls. Again, like I ultimately, it's just so easy in this format. It's like, okay, our opponent plays a value generating 2 attack 1 cost unit that just trades up into our Hopeful. Like it is just an abysmal strategy to be chasing after. So I don't want to be going after the Hopeful House Spider. So we do have the Demolitionist Ballista combo, which if we're going to go for Overwhelms, the Iron Ballista certainly has it. And then we have this more of the value package over here to the middle. I think we want the way to go over top here. I think the Ballista will be a reasonable play. Okay. Well, here's a Legion Marauder. I think that's where we're stuck here. I don't want the Shadow Isles cards, and Apprehend is just straight garbage. Apprehend is garbage in Darius decks, and so, excuse me, I certainly don't want to be picking this up in non-Darius decks. So, Weapons of the Lost is okay. It's a reasonable bit of interaction. Okay. So, here comes some more glory and value. I mean, again, like the Fallen Rider is just a fantastic unit, even without being discarded, and then the Warmonger kind of in the same space. We haven't seen any of like Armored Elephants showing up, And so I'm okay to kind of just like draft Gangplanks to fill in where we don't have late game overwhelms, but the Warmonger, the Ancient Elephant, the Savage Reckoner are what we're really looking for so that we can pick up LeBlancs as our early champion. Here, this is what I was talking about with kind of like the early game package and Bilgewater being quite strong with things like Jagged Butcher. I think we can give up on Powder Kegs at this point. Like Petty Officer would be okay either way, but like we haven't picked up any Make It Rains, Parlays. We haven't picked up any Death's Hands. Like we just don't have any ways to take advantage of the powder kegs here. Okay, and then as we say that, the parlay shows up. But no, this is fine. I'm happy enough with another Physician and Weapons of the Lost. Weapons of the Lost, just a fantastic mid-game play. All right, well, I don't really want 3 of these, but we are really light on spells at this point, or ways to interact. We have 4 spells, and 2 of them are the Weapons of the Lost, and so I'm happy to pick up this Whirling Death here. These other cards are turds anyways, like Riptid's a turd, Monkey Idol's a turd, and so 3 Weapons of the Lost is a few too many, but I think we can manage it. Okay, I'm not really opposed to picking up Pull Sharks here. We have a handful of ways to draw cards in our own. A couple of Pull Sharks. We picked up a couple of Grave Physicians, and so we have some ways to take advantage of this thing. I think that's okay. I just can't come out here and draft 4 Weapons of the Lost. It's just way too many. So the Pull Shark and Rex it is. Okay, man, the Lost Soul is such an incredibly powerful unit. We just don't have any of the discard effects to really take advantage of this. Outside, we have 2 Grave Physicians and 1 Roar of the Slayer, so we have a handful of discard, but not a lot of the really good stuff. And these things are just so hard to pass up on, especially when the Rebel has Overwhelm. Like, he's not a spectacular mid-game play, but still just in those Overwhelmers we're looking for. But I think we're stuck taking the Disciple Demolitionist. We don't have enough discard outlets for that thing to work. Whoa, here's some turds. Snapjaw Swarm. Would love to have a Snapjaw Swarm in this deck, just the actual absolute do nothing. But we'll let that one go for the worst pack of the draft. I don't like Brash Gambler either. We have been looking for some discard effects, but this is just not the way to go about it. So Armored Elephant along with a interactive removal spell will do it for us here. Okay, then another pretty good package of 2-drops. I think we can probably let the Decisive Maneuvers go. I like this 2-drop package here. Then our last pick of the draft, I think I want to pick up the Nox and Fervor just to have a little bit more interaction, a little bit of a way to go face. It's fine to pick up the Hopeful. I don't care that we have the Hopeful in our deck. I just don't want this to be like the core of our strategy. So, not a bad set there. And then our last option here, I think we can do without sunk costs. We have interactive abilities. This is nice kind of in these lands of Scion, but I don't think we need to worry about this. Hopefully we can just pick up like a Nox and Guillotine or something as our catch-all removal. But that's fine. I don't want Death Lotus. Not opposed to trading out the Roar for the Legion Rearguard. And we just don't have a lot of discard bonuses, right? We picked up the 1 Fallen Rider. Is there even anything else? I know we passed on the Epic. The Warmongers doesn't really count. Okay, let's pick up a Rearguard. I'm not excited about the Rearguard anymore. It makes me so sad to not be excited about him, but that's kind of the way the format is shaped up here these days. Okay, so you all know what time it is. We do have to go and turn something premium. Let's take a peek here and see what exists. Show unowned. Have all of these. None of those exist in our deck here. As far as this set of cards, we don't have more powder. We did pick up a Sigil of Malice, though. So, all right, LeBlanc, your flip gets the premium treatment today. Let's do it. Let's jump on in. Okay, so yeah, I think it's reasonable. I like the idea of being kind of like overwhelmed plus go over top closers, because there's just no other way to just like outvalue these Bandle City decks. So I think that's fine. Here, let's just hang on to our 2-drop. I do kind of regret passing on our sunk cost as we immediately play against Scion, but I think we'll be okay. It'll be fine. Everything's okay. Whoa. fellow brother in rear guards. We appreciate it. We appreciate it. Gonna immediately play action. Oh, definitely bringing the aggression here. Okay. Dang, man. Bringing it hard. Okay, and then I don't think we have to open here, but I don't think we have a lot of good plays outside of it. And so just adding the physician or the deckhand doesn't seem that exciting. Unfortunately, can't Weapons of the Lost next turn, but that'll be something we're looking to bank into. LeBlanc, interesting. Might have to give the weapons a few turns. Yeah. Maybe not. It's like I don't want to give up on the value from the Pool Shark, but I also want to be able to play weapons before this Basilisk Rider gets to attack multiple times. Alright, let's just pass. We'll try to bank into this next turn. Maybe this was too greedy. We should have just played the Shark to prevent a point of damage, but feels like the weapons are a great way to just come back. Is he gonna have a sharpened resolve? Oh boy. Oh, Calling Strike, that's fine. No worries about that. So hopefully this leaves us in a pretty decent defensive position. Like, we're most certainly attacking with the Shield Breaker here. Well, the plan was to attack with the Shield Breaker. But next turn, if he just has like one big unit, we can try and contest it with the Tusk Raider. Or if he tries to go wide, we have plenty of tools to go wide here as well. So hopefully this turns out okay. It's a little scary being down at 7. Okay. Grenadier's our blocker for the big fearsome. All to 4. Okay. A little scary being down here at 4. What did we pick up? A Crimson Disciple? I think I'm fine skipping on that. I think I want to add the Warmonger. We'll see what they play. We might add a Grave Physician here as well. We will not. And then I'm just looking to discard the Disciple to the Grave Physician. You probably should have just attacked with Pool Shark, right? He's never blocking. Okay, well, we got a lot of big boys to hang out on this board. Grant can't block to the weakest enemy, so that becomes our physician. I think I'd rather just throw the sheriff in front of this dum-dum. Right, feels like the Tusk Raider will be the better play next turn when we want the big Overwhelm. Okay. Alright, that seems good. We're lethal on the open here. Shouldn't be anyway. Well, from coming out of Shurima, there could be like a -2 attack. We'd still survive through that. Okay. Cool. Alright, and so again, this isn't like a real build around. This is just kind of a I shouldn't say it's a real, not a champion build around. This is more kind of like a theme where we're trying to put together the mid to late game overwhelms along with some unblockable face damage. and so don't really care if we draft LeBlancs or Gangplanks. I was going to say, I want like a few more of these late game bros, and so we're getting one either way here, though, whether or not it's a Gangplank or a Tusk Raider. And so I think leaning towards just taking the Gangplank. We're getting a 3-drop either way, but we get 2 Overwhelms out of the Gangplank as to where we're picking up kind of the weaker Trifarian Hopeful from LeBlanc. So I think this is good. We'll do kind of the same thing in the next pack. Like Gangplank's flip is pretty negligible. Like he flips into Parlay, which is pretty weak. And so I think it's okay to just not worry about stacking. If we could have like 5 or 6 of these late game overwhelms, I'd feel okay with it. Maybe like 6 is too many since we have 3 weapons of the lost, but 5 or 6 seems like a pretty good number. Right, so hang on to our 2 and our 3 against the old landmark deck. Okay. These are why I talk about things like the hopeful just being so bad. Like, we play our 2-drop into our opponent's 1-drop, have to trade, so we're down a mana, and they also got a bonus card out of it. Just such a horrible time to be a Trifarian hopeful. Okay. Still getting a little ahead on this board. My big worry here was that they would play a Ziggs, but we can still trade like Iron Ballista into Ziggs. It's not a big issue. This is tough. I think we want to just go into Jal Hunters now. Like he's most certainly getting a Rock Bear next turn, which I would like to come in and block. Sea Scarab could be interesting. Ugh, this is scary. Definitely losing a unit. That's a pain. It's so hard to be like, oh, I'm going to play around your 1 copy of Zerath, though. Alright, well, we most certainly have to attack before he's able to get landmarks on the board. Like, we can't have him playing the like a Ruin Runner kind of landmarks, just having our units getting aced. So I think that's fine. We have a Calling Strike for Zerath, which seems good. We want to drop the Demolitionist onto the Scarab. Seems fine. Okay. Seeing Frozen Thralls comes down is a little scary. You don't usually see too many landmark countdown reducers coming out of the Zig Zerath decks, but they certainly exist. Vivinamone. So what does this board have the hardest time dealing with? Has to be the Tusk Raider, right? It's just very tough for them to have units that can never deal 5 damage to this thing. This is also problematic if they would have been able to prank it. Okay, I'm ready. I'm okay to come out here and just like get some trades in. The Sea Scarab is threatening to flip within just a few turns. Okay. It's quite unfortunate it gives him an answer to our Tusk Raider. I think we're just going to have to kind of stop now. could attack with the Ballista. It just doesn't seem very good. Trading Ballista for like the Bomber Twins and doing 2 damage. I guess the reason to do it would be to tick up our Gangplank. That makes me feel okay. I think that's fine, actually. Gangplank flipping is something that could realistically happen this game. Sure. Okay. Oh. We're gonna be like one short of hitting deep on our Sea Scarab. We can still just take 4 damage though. That's not a big deal. Oh, we wouldn't be killing off our Tusk Raider either way. Okay, that's fine. Sure. But I think this is okay. I wanted to get some damage onto the Rock Bear so that we can kill it with the Weapons of the Lost. And then otherwise we're just getting the best trades across the board we can. I'm looking to play the rear guard, the Pull Shark, and then I want to play Petty Officer for a unit. This is sweet 5-mana Petty Officer. Get out here and do your thing. But I mean, this seems okay. His board isn't that scary, and then we have a lot of top ends still left in our deck. And oh man, we just generated into a Pull Shark. This is so huge if we smash a Weapons of the Lost here. This is ultimately one of my least favorite things about these formats. It's just so easy to get all these chains of, well, this isn't easy with Petty Officer, but it's much easier on the Bandle City side where you say, like, play a Loping Telescope into something ridiculous. Alright. Oh god, he's got Elusive. This kind of is what it is. We're just going to have to slam in here. We can take 1 hit from the Arsenal and not be dead. But maybe he'll put it in front of our Shield Breaker. And there's no reason to just deck ourselves any further than we have to, so let's put the Sea Scarab down here to the left, so if he wants to trade out on it, we don't just start milling ourselves out for like 5 or 6 cards. I mean, our deck is strong after this. He's got 2 cards to R3, so we're a little bit ahead in that sense. But then, I mean, we haven't drawn any champions this game. We still got 2 Weapons of the Lost. We got a lot of big draws still left in here against a not intimidating Desert Naturalist. Well, that's how you get this thing rolling a little bit faster. Just take 3 right off the Frozen Throw. And the Sun Disk, look out. 25 turns away, here it comes. Alright. Doesn't feel like House Spider really does anything. Might be enough on our next attack. Here's a big boy. That's a little scary. It's like we played it and it's like, if he has some kind of overwhelm onto this powder keg, that's fairly annoying, but that's not something we're gonna have to worry about here. Okay. I mean, I'll just block this with the Gangplank. It's not a big deal. So many powder kegs. We're gonna AoE his team for 4 next turn? Or is it just 3? Just, yeah, it's 4 in total. We'll have 3 powder kegs. Pretty sweet. Get him, Gangplank. Boom. At least he didn't concede. He let us do it, right? All right, all right. So what do we have access to here? We don't want the Reaver's Row. Just don't have any of these one-cost themes. The Petty Officer is probably a little bit better than the Deckhand. Just we don't have the powder keg targets for this to be good. And then the Glory Seeker is an upgrade over the Fallen Rider, but I have a tough time getting like really excited about these Glory Seekers when we don't have any quick attackers. And so I'm just going to upgrade into the Petty Officer here. And it blows my mind with Petty Officer these days. If Petty Officer was released in 2021, he would be a 3/3. It's insane. Just every card that generates a card was decided to be like regular stats. There's very few cards that are understated and just straight having a generation ability. Like it seems like the breakpoint is like the 2/2 for 2 that we have that discards something to draw a card. It's like if it physically draws a card, then they may take a stat off. Like didn't do it to Pull Shark, but that kind of seems to be like the breakpoint. But these things that just generate cards, it's like why not? Why not just give them full stats? You know? Oh, it's insane. It's like I think you could realistically make Legion Rearguard a 3/4, and it would still not be that not be that interesting in this format. A 3/4 can't block for 1. It's close. It's pretty close. But see, like cards like Conchologist are where we like really start to struggle here. I think I'm okay to come in and trade, but it's like we were just straight up down a card. We traded 1 damage for our opponent getting to manifest a spell. And being in Bilgewater, good chance that he just manifested a removal spell. Okay. Alright, well if this pick was group shot, we hopefully just got around that. Otherwise they can be playing things like Pokey Stick. Just tons and tons of removal that come out of those Conchologists. Awesome. Okay, well, our LeBlanc still lines up to this thing reasonably well. Let's just add House Spider. It's going to be our best blocking option here. We can bank 2 and the next turn plan to play Gangplank. Oh, that's savage. I want to put the point of damage on here, so if it doesn't like come out and interact with our Gangplank, we could still threaten trades with the Iron Ballista on this. Do we ever just don't... We can get by without playing Gangplank this turn, I think. Let's add Ballista, let's add Hopeful. Then we'll just save him for a few turns. All right. Well, I really want to get a point of damage in this turn. I'm not convinced that he'll let us do it. Yeah. But really wanted to get this Gangplank closer to leveling. But there was my fully expected complaint and problem with this format, in the sense that things like Yordle Squire come down, trade up, and generate cards at the same time. It's so tough to actually deal with. Give us a 0-2 Pull Shark? No? Alright, I think we're fine to slam Gangplank. We should have waited till after they attacked, but... Okay. Sure. Works for me. It's more practical. Alright, so there's a good chance that this gets our Gangplank pokey-sticked. Since he had the generate from the manifest, but like, we have to do like something to try and get ourselves ahead in this game. So let's swing in with our Gangplank. Yep. Okay. Just insane actual amounts of card advantage. Like this is what I get. It's my problem with these cards that have been released in the Vandal City set. It's not that it's just like it kills entire factions, right? There's it's why like Freylord is borderline unplayable now. Like you're out here trying to get an advantage with something like Brittle Steel, and your opponent just doesn't care, right? You Brittle Steel used to be good because it would let you kind of like trade mana. You could trade your 1 mana spell if your opponent's like 3 or 4 mana spell. But now it's just like there's so much width and so much low to the ground card generation. The cards like Brittle Steel just aren't good anymore. But anyways, here I think I'm good to upgrade into another Overwhelm. So let's pick up the Iron Ballista and move on forward. Okay. Okay, so we're definitely getting rid of a 3 in the Weapons of the Lost. I think I want to get rid of the Ballista. At least gives us kind of an answer to Riven, and then a high quality turn 3 attacker. Okay. Sure. Damn. Hoping to hit a 2. We did not do it. As you can tell by the cards in our hand, we did not hit a 2-drop. I think we're safe to just start with LeBlanc. There's not a whole lot of spells coming out of them that interact with her favorably. She should just be able to attack and get in for free. Full Shark. I was really intending on just like playing any 3 here and then following up with a Weapons of the Lost next turn. Let's see if he pranks it. Not that one. Okay. I don't think we need to play Pull Shark here. We're just losing out on 1 mana. And then we still have pretty big spells to be playing here. I think this is fine. Definitely not slamming this at Fizz. Say no thank you. That's one way to take down a LeBlanc. Okay, it's interesting seeing this come out of the Noxus. It makes us need to worry about things like Scorched Earth and Nox and Guillotines. Okay, that's aggressive. It's a little worrisome. How do we go about this? I mean, I think we just want to get the big Overwhelm package going. Shouldn't have access to any more rallies from this point, so I think... I mean, we should get the option to try and just kill him next turn. There's a rally. Okay. So where are we at here? We've got 12. He has too many stats. We can Whirling Death something down. So if we attack for 12, no. Wait, we get in for 2 plus 6, be 8, be 1 short. We can't Whirling Death in this combat either. It's unfortunate. Okay. It looks like we need them to kind of like mess up on their attack next turn, right? We need to be able to Whirling Death down a Fizz. But he may not have enough health here. Like, as this board stands, we've got 18 Overwhelm and he has 6 health. So he needs to get at least 2 more health on the board. Alright, so if we hit, this is 12, 17. 17 minus 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. That seems good. $12 and 5, that's 17. I gotta double check my bust math. Then 17 minus 7 is 10. Should put him at -1. What did I mess up there? How did I miss it? Oh, this thing doesn't have Overwhelm. Oh, that's true. That's a problem. I just assumed everything had Overwhelm. That's okay. So, I mean, I'd say he's just going to open with Fizz. We didn't miss anything there, though. Well, we could have... no, we didn't miss anything. Yeah, he knows he has the Whirling Death now. Kind of felt like he was just going to open on us anyways, but we have to like draw Nox and Fervor or Sigil of Malice. We got a couple of shots. I don't think we ever get to try and Weapons of the Lost Fizz, but let's pull Shark. Let's give ourselves 2 draws at the removal spell. Well, he just pranked as well. Interesting. Okay, well that's going to do us in. Alrighty, well, I mean that's about how I expect a deck like this to run into the format. It's ultimately like in my like I don't want to call it lazy, but that's what it feels like. It's like we instead of adding a new mechanic to the game, they just added like a bunch of card draw to a faction, and it's like I kind of get it to a degree with like the multi-faction stuff. Like, you only get to play 2 factions, and so if you want to have a multi-faction theme or get multi-faction cards into your deck, you kind of have to have some kind of generation to go along with it. But it's just ultimately super frustrating that like every single card out of Bandle City generates something, and it's just like so tough to ever like play a value game against that. And so like what we would see with the invokes and way that this like traditionally works throughout the history of card games is the cards are understated to a degree. So if we like look at the invokes, you know, you were paying 3 mana for a 3-stat unit that took some more work, right? If you played the Daybreak Invoke, you had to play it first. If you played the Nightfall one, you had to play a card after the fact, and then you had to have to deal with them just being like understated. Or if you look at something, say, like Moondreamer is would realistically be like a 5/5 coming out of Bandle City, maybe even bigger. Like I wouldn't be surprised if they made Moondreamer like a 6/6 invoke for 5 out of Bandle City, because that's just like how ridiculous every single card is. Like Bomber Twins, right on stats. Like we look at every card as being like at 2 drops it being like 5 stats with upside. But that upside is typically not just drawing a card. And so, like Yordle Squire, Bomber Twins do it. Conchologist is understated by 1, but, drawing a removal spell literally every time is probably worth losing a stat point. Things like Bandle City Mayor, not as big of a deal in Expedition, but does let you, generate an expensive card and then cheat on mana for the rest of the game. It's just like at some point, like you have to be kind of like, oh, these cards shouldn't just have like all the stats and everything. It's just, I don't know. It's extremely tough to deal with. It's and like kind of like compounding on that, you just know that like the Bandle City appearance bonus is never going to fall off. Like we're still sitting on the full Shyvana appearance bonus from like 3 and 4 patches ago. So ultimately, it's just a fairly frustrating experience, and I'll let my saltiness aside there. And so, yeah, I mean, as far as a deck like this goes, I wasn't expecting like too much success out of Gangplank. Bilgewater is far and away the worst, the worst faction in Expedition. Far and away, they just don't really have any good decks. There's just all of these other decks are out here just like generating a bunch of cards and doing. If they can't generate cards, they have a bunch of like reasonably statted units, and they don't take like too much going right to get good build arounds going. And outside of just drafting sea monsters, none of those abilities work in Expedition. And I think like the biggest telling factor in that is like the extreme strength of Misfortune. Like Misfortune is one of the absolute most powerful champions in the game. Misfortune should be like steamrolling Expedition, as we've kind of seen as to where these champions that get stacked up in more and more copies, right? If we think to say like Jarvan and Garen, to where they get to kind of like overlap their card pools, and you can kind of finagle the draft to where you're seeing both Challenger and Demacian Steel show up. Like with 4 Misfortune packs in Expedition, she should like literally be steamrolling the format. But Bilgewater's just so bad. All of the cards in this are just complete garbo that she's sitting around down there at the bottom. And so, yeah, I wasn't expecting too much out of this. I think we had a good game plan. I think we had a good strategy. We knew that we were going to run into Bandle City. Bandle City is going to be playing a big value game and a big go wide game, so we can't be playing units like Legion Rearguard, like what, right? Just trading the Rearguard for our opponent's 1-drop plus a spell's too bad. Playing things like Legion Grenadier, trading off our Grenadier for our opponent's 1-drop plus a spell, just way too bad. We can't really count on these kind of cards to carry us anywhere. So we need to look towards the late game overwhelms, and we need to look for face damage. And so that's what we were trying to piece together here. Didn't really come together in a quality aspect, but I think the idea was good. And so we can look to deal face damage with the likes of the Crimson Disciple, the Imperial Demolitionist, the Legion Grenadier package. We can do a bit of face damage with our spells and Nox and Fervor and Sigil of Malice. Even things like Ruined Rex and Riptide Rex could come in and do a little bit of face damage. And then otherwise, we're just trying to close out the games with overwhelms. And so we were looking towards the Tusk Raiders, the Gangplanks, the Warmongers, the Kato and the Arm and his friends, just whatever we could use to go over top of our opponent's Bandle Commandos and punch in that damage, because we are never winning combats otherwise. So yeah, I thought it was a decent strategy. It's just kind of one of these decks that, I think 2 wins is good. I think like 4 was probably about the ceiling, and it's just kind of a bad deck in the current metagame. It's just not a whole lot you can do about that. But nonetheless, that is going to do it for us today. I do believe we have a reward or 2 to click on. So let's take a peek at what's out here, and we'll call it a day. All the wild cards. Thing number 1. Coming in on some prismatic rewards. Oh man, no units, so you got to take the spell. All right, well, the flash bombs are technically a generated card of sorts, and so we'll take the Piltover Peacemaker. What else do you got for us here? Platinum chest it is. Okay, okay. The big time epics, welcome Justice Rider. And the shards. Alrighty, well that will do it for us today. Hope you all enjoyed the trial. You learned how to overwhelm the Bandle City a little bit better. Maybe learned a thing or two along the way and had a good time watching. This is Bust, and we thank you for being here.